There's one more thing that I want to show you that hopefully it'll look really smart and clever, but it is another way to think about this problem that's different from what I did in the video where I showed you how to make this function where we figured out the fill time from the volume. And to explain this idea, I want you to actually think about what you would do if you were filling this container manually. So you can see we have the ability to start filling the container, we wait a certain amount of time, and then we stop filling the container. Normally what we would do as we are waiting, I'm going to give it some time, I'm going to look away, and then I'm going to look back and kind of see what is the volume now. And if the volume still isn't where it needs to be, then I'm going to let it keep filling. And I might check my phone for a second, again look back, is it still filling? Are we there yet? No, okay. Swipe through a couple posts, check back again and see like, oh, we're up to volume, now I'm going to stop filling container. And so the idea is that instead of waiting a certain amount of time, we wait until a condition is true. And the condition we would want to be checking is the mixing container volume where it needs to be? So let's say that we want to fill a container up to 500 milliliters. So just as what we did in the first video where I did this. But I'm going to write this in a slightly different way. So I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to create a while loop. Now, a while loop will run as long as the condition inside of the loop is true. So here's my condition. This is the mixing container volume, and this is what I want to be equal to 500. And so what I'm going to do is essentially what I described just a second ago. I'm going to wait a certain amount of time. How long? Let's say a second. Okay, so 1,000 milliseconds. And so what this is going to do is this is going to run that loop until, presumably, the mixing container volume is greater than 500. And then once this is no longer true, it's going to break out of that loop, it's going to stop filling the container, and it's going to write the final volume. So let's do this. Let's run the code and see what it does. So we look at the console and we can see that this way overfilled it, right? So it overfilled it to 628.5 or almost 629 milliliters, which is too much. We wanted it to be 500 exactly. But part of the reason that it didn't do such a good job is that we were only checking every second. Like we were saying, I'm going to wait a second, I'm going to look away. 1,000, what's it at? Nope. 2,000, what's it at? 3,000, what's it at? And so on. I can instead check more often than that. Instead of every second, I mean, this is a computer. It doesn't care. It doesn't get any neck strain if it's doing this, right? We can have it do 100 times a second. Let's see how much better the answer is, the volume is when we do that. So now you can see it's 502.9 milliliters. Still pretty good. Could we do better? Yes. And see, it gets even a little bit better, and we could make it smaller. But you can see to a certain degree it is going to go a little bit over every time. The question is, how close do we really need this to be? And like I said in the first video, it kind of depends on the application that you're programming for. This is within a milliliter. I said that the target volume has to be within 5%. So if you do the math, that basically means within 25 milliliters. I think that's right. So this is definitely close enough. So this is definitely one way that you can do this. You can do the same thing with temperature if you want to, right? We might want to set a set point for a temperature, and it's basically the same thing. I'm going to change this to mixing container temperature. Let's say we want to put it up to 40 degrees Celsius. I'm going to change this, instead of start filling container, to turn heater on, and I'll turn this to turn heater off. Okay, and instead of mixing container volume, let's do mixing container temperature. All right, so same thing. And let's also do one more thing. Let's print out the temperature as this happens so we can really see that temperature change over time. So let's run the code. All right, now you can actually see that this got up to temperature really fast. it was only 3 loose before I got up to 40. And that's because I forgot one other thing, and that is this is what would actually happen with a real heater. We didn't fill the container. So this is an empty container. We're heating up an empty container. Of course it's going to heat up really fast. So let me fix that. Let me restore our code, filling it with 500 milliliters, and then we'll heat that water up to 40 degrees Celsius. So give me a second to get that set up. All right, so I got this done. Now I am filling the container until it gets up to 500, and then I'm gonna start heating the container until it gets up to 40 degrees Celsius. And then at this point, we know that we have 500 milliliters at 40 degrees Celsius. Let's run the code and take a look at this happen. Okay, there we go. So we can see it filling up. So it filled up to just under 500, and now it is heating that water. We're at 31, 32, and then that'll keep going. And we're up to 40. And so now we know we have 500 milliliters at 400 degrees Celsius. And we've done this by being smart and lazy. So we have just changed our approach to doing this problem. So I hope this moves you in the right direction for the task that I'm giving you for tomorrow. See you in class.